No?
Maybe move it up one button.
I have to move them. Well, the glasses are going to end up here anyway. How about that? I can also move a bit closer. How's everybody doing? Is it 2 o'clock? It is exactly 2 o'clock. Welcome. If you haven't been here before for a fireside chat, the format's always the same. I'm here to answer questions if you've got any. If I know the answer. If I don't know the answer, I have a pen and a pad and I'll write the question down and I'll find you an answer. How's that? Okay. Who wants to start? That was great. Y'all have a good day. Yes, sir.
In one of your meetings not too long ago, you said that Spectrum was going to be installing routers in each of the apartments. Do you have any more information on that?
Yep. I talked about Spectrum that was going to be putting routers into each apartment across the campus. I heard that talked about this morning in a meeting that I was in, and what I heard them say was that they were working with Spectrum to schedule that probably starting in July. If I didn't hear a date, just a month. Okay, so it's still coming, but I don't have any particulars. You were in that meeting. Did you hear a date? I only heard July. Yeah, okay. What's next? I know we just met this week, so sometimes that happens, but yes, sir.
In December, there was a fire in Building 6 that set off the sprinkler system that actually caused most of the damage. You were going to have a report of that. I must have missed it. Could you direct us to where we might find that report?
He's talking about the fire that happened back in December. I was planning to do a meeting with the people who were impacted by the fire. That's the only thing I had planned. And as you're saying that, I did not do that. I still need to do that.
Well, the sprinkler system did more damage than the fire. And so, I don't live in Building 6. I wasn't impacted by that, but could be in a fire in my building. And so I'm concerned about, I guess the story that I heard was that the sprinkler system went on much longer than was necessary, and that the fire department had trouble turning off the sprinkler system.
Yeah, there is some truth to what you're saying. He's talking about the sprinkler system. He's worried about how much water came out of the sprinkler system, and how long it ran was part of the problem. It is a lot of water. When one of those goes off, they put out about 100 gallons of water a minute. So it is a lot of water. Dispel a myth, it's one head that went off, not multiple heads. They're not set up so that when one goes off in your apartment, they all go off. Each individually has to have heat that hits them. It's a rapid rise condition that has to happen at that sprinkler head for that to go off. In the movies, you see entire buildings going off at one time and whole parking garages going off at one time, and sprinkler systems don't work that way, only in the movies. So it was one head that went off. It did go off longer than it should have, and there was some situation that happened on that particular day, and I'd be glad to talk about that. The fire alarm system, of course, called the fire department as soon as the sprinkler went off, because that's what it does. It auto dials the fire department, lets them know. So they're beginning to roll. They were delayed a couple of minutes because they were in the middle of a training class with their team, so they had to get unscrambled from that, then get dressed, and then head here. So they were delayed a few minutes in arriving. Nobody at Still Hopes can turn off a sprinkler system once it goes off. Even if we see exactly what was going on and we see what the fire was and we see that it's put out, it is a criminal offense to turn the sprinkler system off if you're not a fireman. So we had to let it run. Then when they got here, the next thing that happened was somebody who lives in our building made a phone call to 911. They reported that the building was engulfed in flames, which prompted the 911 system to call fire stations from Columbia, Lexington, West Columbia was on its way, and Irmo. So all those fire departments, and Casey, they all headed this way. Casey actually beat West Columbia here because West Columbia had that training going on. But West Columbia rolled in right behind Casey. Well, West Columbia is the jurisdiction, so they took the lead. They said to Casey, y'all stay here on the ground, we're going up. They went up. Then they radioed back down to Casey and said, it's all clear, shut off the sprinkler system. Well, the problem is Casey doesn't train here, West Columbia does. Casey didn't know where that was. It's not in that building. It's in building 5, where the system turns off to that building. They asked one of our staff members who was new, and he knew where a riser room was in the parking garage basement, and he took them there. So they turned off the system to building 7. But when they did that, the water didn't stop flowing. So they're talking back and forth on the radio, and the water won't stop flowing immediately. It's got a lot of pressure, so the pressure has to go away. So in a few minutes, they said, no, this isn't working. The pressure's not dropping. So by then, Tori has arrived on the scene, and Tori takes them to the right place to turn off the actual system that they're supposed to turn off. Then we discovered one more trick. Building 5 sits higher than building 6, if you think about it, where they're located physically. So building 5 and 6 are tied together. So they turned off the system there, but the water had to drain from the top floor of 6 before the water's gonna stop flowing on the top floor. Had to drain from the top floor of building 5 before it was going to stop flowing in building 6, so it continued to flow for a good while even after that. So there was a whole bunch of stuff that went on. Now, we know now that they're tied together like that. We've put a backflow in now so that that won't happen again. It won't drain building 5 down to building 6, should that happen in the future. And that's the only place where we have 2 buildings fed by 1 riser. So each of the other buildings is to itself. But generally speaking, if we have a fire in any of our buildings, because they're all fully sprinklered, the majority of the damage we're going to see is going to be water. It's not going to be fire. It's a lot of water and it comes really fast.
So do we have training now to ensure that employees know?
We have training in place for that. We just had a brand new employee that the Casey Fire Department grabbed and said, where is it? And he told them where he knew one was. But the problem was they caught him off guard, and he had been shown, but can you just imagine how much a new employee is shown about something like that on this campus? So it just happened. And again, as soon as Tori got on the scene, and the truth is, Tori actually went there and started turning the system off himself. But the fire department had already said, turn it off. So we didn't get in trouble for that because they'd already authorized it to be turned off. I've actually, personally in my career, early in my career, when I was young and stupider than I am now, I turned one off and almost went to jail for it. So I learned that the hard way, but I learned it with a fire chief in my face, spitting in my face, telling me that I broke the rules, that he had the right to arrest me and haul me to jail. But that's the way that works, and that's to keep anybody from messing with a sprinkler system. And just so you know too, if somebody went over, because you could find your way into the room, break in and get to the riser and decide to turn it off now. If you turn that valve, that will set off an alarm too. It sets off an alarm saying that something's been impaired about the sprinkler system. So that would call the fire department, just like going off. Okay. That's the longer story about what I know about that. Yes, sir.
Which insurance company took care of the problem? I mean, the liability.
That's a complicated question.
Is it still going on?
It's still going on, and it's multiple insurance companies that are involved. We have insurance. Our insurance is going to pay the claim, but our insurance is also going to reach to other insurance companies because of liability, and they're going to get repaid from those insurance companies. So that's still going on. That may go on for a year.
I've got another question for you since I got the speaker here.
Got to take the microphone from him after this.
Yesterday, we went on that tour of the African American things in the city there. We were in that 30-seat bus that we've got, and the coolest it got in there was 90 degrees, and we were not getting on and getting off. And I've even been on that bus at night going down to the Keenan, and it doesn't really work. What I'm saying is either that air conditioning system on that needs to be replaced or repaired.
Okay.
I mean, I would just...
Well, that's called a work order, and waiting this once a month meeting is not a smart thing to do for a work order.
Is that something I should do?
Absolutely, put a work order in on it.
Damn right I'm going to do it, because I was sweating.
Yeah.
The sweat was coming down on my shirt.
Sure. And I can tell y'all, I've been dealing with buses for my whole career. If we don't crank that thing up an hour before you're going to get on it in a day like yesterday or today, it's not going to get cool. And you put that much body heat in it on top of that when it hasn't cooled off, and it will never cool off. But there are if it's happened on other days, then there could be something wrong with the system.
Yes, there is. It's got to be.
Did they? Okay. Well, good. That should have been the protocol. It just won't do it. Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
nobody wants to see Swampy Dave.
Yes.
Is there anything you could do to make it easier to move the chairs in and out from under the table in the bistro? These are the same chairs that were in the bistro before they remodeled. So it seems like maybe the carpet is more resistant, but it is very hard to move out from the table because it sticks.
It's the first I've heard of that. I'll check into it. I don't know anything about that. Apologize, but I have to write enough note or it will be useless. Okay, thank you. What else? Yes, sir.
Is the Rock Hill deal dead?
Is the Rock Hill deal dead? York, South Carolina? Yes, it is. Still Hopes has ended our pursuit of developing a community in York. It became really obvious that the city fathers of York really don't want what we wanted to build or what we have been charged to build by the diocese. So the deal we had with the diocese, they gave that property to us, but it came with an agreement, and the agreement was we're going to develop a middle market retirement community. What York really wants is a Still Hopes grade retirement community. Two issues with that. One is that's not what we were authorized to do with the land. Two is there's no market in York, South Carolina today for that kind of a community. There will be with what's going on and the out-migration coming out of Charlotte and Rock Hill and Fort Mill and all those areas. It will come, but it's not there today. But we couldn't do what they wanted, and they wouldn't let us do what we could do. And it just stopped making sense to spend any more money on it. So at the end of the day also, because this should be the follow-up question, is so how much money did we spend and what's going on with that? We spent right at $1 million on that project to get it to where it was, but we control the land. That's part of that agreement as well, is if we could not do it, we sell the land to make ourselves whole and then give the rest of the money to the diocese. So that's what's in process right now. And it looks like that the 4-H Club and Clemson University are going to buy that property for a completely different use than what we ever had in mind. And it seems like that the city fathers want that to happen. But I will tell you, it seemed like the city fathers want what we were going to do until we started actually trying to do it. So we'll see. But anyway, that's the story on that. We've had the property appraised. It appraised for about $4.6 million. So we'll easily end up whole, and the diocese should get a pretty good chunk of money as well. Now, the diocese also has an account receivable on that property. They've spent about $750,000 of their own money before they ever turned the land, before they turned it over to us, just maintaining it and trying to take care of it and paying insurance premiums and all those sorts of things. So it's a shame. There's a huge amount of potential there. It would have been an awesome project, but you can't do what a city doesn't want. What else? Yes, sir.
I wanted to bring up briefly, we talked about this yesterday, but I don't know if this is the appropriate time to bring this up or not, but at a recent resident council meeting, there was some question about the separation of Brooklyn Commons and Stillhopes. And specifically, they were talking about the landscaping people and what Brittany does. And she was over there cutting some grass and all. And I'm sure we all know that Brittany is severely shorthanded and underfunded as already. So maybe you could explain to us what's going on there and what the separation is so that we can all understand that better.
Sure. Well, I'd start with saying, I do not believe you're accurate when you say she's underfunded. She's not spending her budget because she can't find help to hire, but I do not believe she's underfunded.
Well, we have issues with not having pine straw in a fairly decent percentage of the cottages, and she is shorthanded, but she could hire U.S. Lawns to come in and put it down, but that costs money. So that didn't happen. So that's one example of not having the money. But as far as that goes, I would think that since we don't have this personnel, we should have more money to be able to do this kind of thing.
That's exactly what I was going to say. That's a matter of, if you've got a budget and you're not going to spend it one way, you can spend it another. But you have to talk to people who understand that. And I'll get with Brittany on that. Yeah, Tab's new at his job too, and Tab is who she reports to, but I hadn't heard anything about a lack of money for pine straw or a lack of labor to put it. I hadn't heard any of that. So all that's news to me. And I'll see what I can do about that, because we can certainly spend the budget we've got, and that's not being done because we've been short labor. She's not hired the people that she's authorized to hire. And that's not because she's not trying, it's just because she hasn't found people who meet all of our qualifications, which really are not that stringent except when you get down to criminal background and drug use. And those are places where some of the people who apply for those kinds of jobs say they're going to be great until you actually do the test, and they bought something on the internet for $20 that said it was going to fool us, and it really just doesn't. It fooled them. So anyway, we keep trying. On Brooklyn Commons is an investment of this organization. Still Helps bought that land to create that middle market community. It will be its own thing. It will have its own staff. It will have its own funding. It will do its own thing. But right now it's trying to get started. I also did not know that she had been sent there to cut grass. That was news to me as well when you told me that. Or actually, I heard it before you told me from somebody else that was at that same resident council meeting. That happened while I was on vacation, so I missed the meeting. But we can look at all of that. But we're going to take care of the investment we made. We're trying to be a good neighbor to our neighbors and keep that property looking okay, so they don't get mad at us when we're trying to do something there that they may not like anyway. we've got the zoning straightened out, but we still want good relationships with our neighbors, which means not letting it look too run down and ratty. And y'all are part of those neighbors too, and you don't want it to look that way either. But anyway, we're doing the best we can on that. There was discussion at that council meeting. What came back to me was that someone said that I had promised we wouldn't spend any staff time or any money on that project. Well, we bought the land, so we spent money on the project. And I can guarantee you I've spent time on that project, as has Joe, and we'll continue to do that. But it's an investment in the future. Once that's up and running, it actually makes Still Hope stronger. It'll help future fees not go up at the same rate they would if we didn't have that community. So it's going to be good for Still Hopes. It's also good for the mission and purpose of this organization, which is what the board's charged to do, is to honor the mission and purpose. Strengthens our nonprofit status as well, which has never been questioned in South Carolina, but in other states, CCRCs have lost their tax exempt status over not doing things that looked like they were taking care of community people that couldn't have taken care of themselves. So that's another reason why our board made the decision to reach toward the middle market community, because that's an underserved population of people. Thank you. What else? Are y'all staying cool enough? It's a hot time out there. Yeah, I got into this business and moved into South Carolina before I ever heard this, but it's I've heard it over and over again since I came here, was air conditioning systems can only do so much. So just because we turn our air conditioning system on 68 degrees when it's 101 degrees outside does not mean it's going to cool down to 68 degrees. It's going to do all that it can, but it's still trying to discharge that extra heat to the outside. And if it can't get rid of that heat out there, then it can't cool in here. So it'll do what it can, but if this continues on for several more days, I expect that we're going to find areas that are not cooling to the degree we wish they would. Maybe you're already feeling it. I think it's a little warm in this room, quite actually. So, have a good day. Thank you for coming. I appreciate you. Yes, sir.
I've been noticing that the kudzu is really getting out of hand. It has really taken over that gate around on Still Hopes Drive, and then as you come back in,
You're talking about on C Avenue?
Still Hopes Drive.
Kudzu at Still Hopes
At the end
Drive?
of the gate,
At Still Hopes Drive.
right. It's when you
I
go,
think it's C Avenue.
pardon?
I think you're talking about C Avenue.
Okay. No. In Still Hopes. On the,
Coming in from Still Hopes Drive. Okay, yeah, that's property we don't own.
it's starting to get into
Yeah.
some of the magnolias also.
That's,
Pretty bad.
I think you're talking about property we don't own. We own once you get through the gate, but that right inside before you get into the gate belongs to the company that owns those rental units.
Right. But it's also, it's,
We're not talking about the same thing, because we own all the way to C Avenue, don't we? It's the
Yeah, but
strip
he's saying Still Hopes Drive, and that's not Still Hopes Drive.
between Still Hopes and C Avenue, it's the watershed area. and I
Yeah,
think that's
but
what
he said it wasn't C Avenue. He said it wasn't at C
wait a
Avenue.
minute. As you come in the gate,
From C Avenue or from Knox Avenue?
yes.
From C, that's what, okay. Yeah, I see it over there as
Okay,
well.
You
Yeah,
turn you turn
Yeah.
into Still Hopes.
yeah, yeah.
Now, all that section there has
All
really
that.
been run over, and there's
Yeah.
some magnolias inside of Still Hopes Drive.
Yeah, I'll take a look at that. If it's outside the wetlands, we can do something about it. We're not supposed to be doing anything inside the wetlands area except leaving it alone. But it's overrun with wisteria too.
Yes, because once that stuff starts growing, it goes crazy.
Oh my, it sure does. It's one of the worst good ideas that the South Carolina Department of Transportation or the North Carolina Department of Transportation ever had. All right. Again, thank you for coming. Y'all have a wonderful afternoon. I'll see you again in about a month. Okay?